Mr. Ted Shockley.
What am I supposed to say?
Welcome.
It's a pleasure to be here.
I'm glad you could join us.
I've been talking about this for a couple weeks now because we're, trying to line guests up and we're starting to get into a flow.
Yeah, starting to get into a flow, starting to figure out, important community people, and your name came up a while ago, right? So there's a lot of great reasons why I feel like you're here.
Well, it's really cool because Ted, I've known him. So my sister, his wife, and Ted, they were really good friends growing up. And so I was the 5-year-old punk little brother who was just there, watching them be doing their thing, man, these guys are cool.
Yeah.
He was a catcher on the baseball team. And I was like, dude, that's my catcher right there, So it's So I started watching him from a real young age as they were growing up too. So that was really cool.
It's interesting that it always seems like people above you in high school, but you don't know anybody below you. Right. It's just whatever, I'm over it. Let's get this done. But you kind of I remember going to any sort of game and just idolizing the seniors and the juniors in middle school. And so a similar type of thing happened with you.
So this is big for me. I want you to know that. This is cool stuff.
Well, it's big for me.
So let's catch up. So what actually are you doing right now with Eastern Shore
Let's
Post?
start with that.
Well,
I'm playing the guitar over here. Sorry.
Yeah, you
hit those springs.
Mess with it. You just try. That's good.
So if he's speaking, are we on?
Yeah.
Well, hello, everybody. I am the editor and one of the two co-owners, and the general manager of the Eastern Shore Post, and which is weekly, and Shore First, which is monthly. And our office is in Exmoor, and have some really cool co-workers. A lot of talent there.
That's awesome. I've been reading the Eastern Shore Post for a long time, and I really didn't even know that you were with them. And I guess probably I reached out to you when I started coaching the varsity baseball team just to say hi again and kind of say, because I wanted you to come out and see guys that are coming up now, like Eli Destro and Cohen Kellum and, Ryan Custis' son, Bennett Custis.
Yeah.
Olson Pruitt. It was cool. So I got to see them kind of as 7th and 8th graders.
Yeah.
And I was I remember that time, and I'm man, dude, that was one of the coolest times ever. And so I reached out to Ted because I wanted him to come out and because these are really good kids. I mean, just really good. Somebody that, their parents are doing really good with them type guys, and so I wanted Ted to come out and see these guys, and we got my very first game. So I'll tell a quick story. I'm going back to baseball on this, but I'm comfortable with that with this dude because I idolize this guy. So we reached the state championship baseball game my senior year, and man, we were dude, just to get there, it was an unbelievable ride. It was a lot of fun. And we were I don't even know, 21-1 or something like that. We only lost one time all year. We're just rolling. And so we get all the way out to Big Stone Gap against Powell Valley.
You remember the pitcher's name?
Todd Zirkle.
That's right.
Who also caught a touchdown against us too. This has been on my mind for a long time.
Clearly.
And so this game, man, they beat us in football, but dude, we're gonna get we really had a legitimate shot to really get to stick it to them. But one of our star pitchers the night before was I can't pitch. I can't even lift my arm.
Oh.
And so we went in there. They were all oh man. So our top two pitchers couldn't even pitch. And so we get in there, but dude, we got no hit. We didn't get a single hit. We got all the way to the state championship.
You threw a no-hitter.
No. We got no hit. We did not even hit the ball at all. We couldn't even lift our heads up. We were. It's a wild story. But so we really got 9-0, lost the game.
Oh man!
I was saying, the pitcher from the baseball team caught a touchdown against us in the state championship football game type thing, So yeah, he really got us. And,
Just throwing gas.
and then when I get out to Broadwater for my very first game coaching varsity, it was against Norfolk Academy.
His son.
No.
Oh, that would've been wild.
That's like Rocky type stuff right there. That would happen.
Yeah, that's
But like, I'm like trying to hype us up, and I'm like talking to Ted and like trying to, get some support and get the parents behind it and really get something moving. And we got no hit. Like, we lost like 16-0. My very first game as a varsity baseball coach, we got decimated.
Got nowhere to go but up.
That's right.
That's all. I was like, I've let Ted down. I got to get this team going, dude.
Coaching has to be just the toughest thing. And then to teach all day and then coach and to be expected to coach at such a high level. I will never figure out how people did that well. I mean, how can you be such a good teacher and then such
Are you thinking about specific examples here?
Oh, just about everybody who was a coach at my high school.
Because last episode we were talking.
So yeah, I know. So go ahead.
No, I was just going to say last episode we were talking a lot about how some of these coaches were very important as part of, bringing the community, and the teachers were accountable, held each other accountable, and their students, and how that sort of built upon the overall experience of being like involved with a sports team on the Eastern Shore.
And I'm sure that still happens. I think magic happens in every classroom, and I think that magic happens after school in every sport. And they just haven't been on your show, but you do through the generations look up to people like that. Who, and then of course I taught school 1 year and coached JV baseball 1 year, and it was fantastically hard. It was very difficult. And you get up every day and try to do it very well.
Yeah, and I think like even the role that I see myself in as a teacher would be different than a coach, right? As a coach, you're almost more of a mentor, right? You can give them a little bit of tough love, in a way that maybe a teacher might not be able to. At least that's the way that I see it. It's kind of a different role.
Yeah. And, I just enjoy watching baseball now and enjoyed playing baseball. And teaching baseball is just sometimes I hope that the people who are teaching baseball understand baseball and teach the skills the right way. I'm sure they do.
So
but it's a tremendous responsibility to think that.
So going off of that, who did you idolize, or who'd you hear about growing up? Like was like that coach on the Shore?
Oh, I had all the way through had wonderful coaches like that, and they were like that on the other teams as well. I mean, my middle school coach was Mr. Richardson, and he was a great baseball teacher. And then Mr. Denton, Mr. Conroe, when I went to high school, were phenomenal. At Broadwater, I enjoyed talking to Kenny Collins when he was the baseball coach there, and about when he used to play for Mr. Webb down at Northampton. And so it's you're constantly learning, and you wonder, gosh, first year baseball coach, are we teaching the bunt defense right, and the catcher calling the play, and what do you do it late in the game, first and third?
Yeah, I love that. That's why I love coaching the group that I'm coaching right now. It's a fun group because they're starting to understand. I do 8 to 11-year-olds right now, and they're starting to like really get into the game. Like you're out of T-ball now. You're not, out in right field picking daisies. You're like that. Like they really like baseball at this point. And so now they're hungry to learn, and you're able to instill these things, these fundamentals that coaches taught us growing up. And it is such an awesome sight to see. I have a blast doing it. I love coaching especially the high school guys, because like that was so much fun to me. And I want them to experience that, like really do that. And it was that time frame now that I'm coaching, to me that was fun too. but I was also learning it. Like at that point in high school, like I understood the game. I couldn't play it very well, but I understood the game. Like I was a baseball fanatic, and my youngest son does that now. He actually, you'll get a kick out of this. He actually looks at the back of baseball cards.
Nice.
And he does the stats to make sure the cards are off. And do you realize how many cards that he has found with that?
Really? Like misprints?
Yep. Yeah, like their stats are wrong.
Are they worth any money?
He goes, Dad, he should have a 3.25 ERA,
Oh
not a
my
3.75
goodness.
ERA.
That's awesome.
He's 9 years old and he's doing this. But that was me. Like that was like, that's how, and so I love coaching the game because of that, because like, my field, I'm kind of particular about how I make my field and have my lines and stuff.
Yeah.
And it's like, because I really wanted to look good for, because we're trying to represent some things.
Yeah, you take pride in your work.
That's right. And it's more than just sports, though. It's all the Eastern Shore and coming from, actually growing up here and seeing you. And what are some of the things that you're seeing now in the Eastern Shore that remind you of, man, we did that. I want to bring that back.
That's a great question. I don't think some of the stuff is altogether lost. I think that there's been continuity and, you do, when you talk about, and this is not necessarily sports or athletics, but you do want to see your robust downtowns, whether, I guess y'all have talked previously about Cape Charles in the 70s, 80s, 90s.
Just a little, yeah.
But when I was growing up, Sheridan had a robust downtown, and you want to see that. My wife is from Exmoor. Exmoor had a robust downtown, and the ones they have now are. Sheridan has some hallmark businesses and entities in it downtown, as does Exmoor. But you want to see that. You want to see the downtown experiences grow in Hancock, Chincoteague, and have communities built around that.
Yeah, that was we talked about. I'm glad you brought up these other towns because I remember that as well. For those, Sheridan had a grocery store.
Tatum's,
It had Paul's. It had a gas station, full service gas station. Dutz, I think it was called. Right? Was it Dutz?
That's exactly right.
I remember riding with my mom to work. And she'll pull up in there, and guy comes out and, hey, Miss Stiles, how are you doing? I mean, has a conversation with her, and
nice.
Like she popped the hood, the dude opened the hood, and it's like I saw that, like I got to see that glimpse. So you're starting to see that now, or you actually said some of it's never really gone away.
Yeah, I think that the of course the full service fuel station has, but some of the downtown pride and the downtown amenities. They exist and they're building on them. I don't think it's completely gone. I think if you talk to some kids in some downtowns, that they love it as much as you love Cape Charles, and my wife loved Exmoor, and
that's cool stuff.
Yeah, we ride through Exmoor. We rode through Exmoor yesterday on a Sunday. There's the kids riding their bicycles, playing in the yards, and you say, "This is the way it should be. This is cool."
Yeah, it always. I drive through Exmoor too. This is my first time living up the road up this way. Like normally I'm Cape Charles and did live in Sheridan for a while.
I love that you said up the road.
Yeah. Well, I mean, this
awesome.
is like
awesome.
And you brought this up in a board meeting the other day. This is like Middle Shore here,
It is.
And I find it so interesting that we kind of like even like fishing spots and like I know, out of Oyster. I don't know anything out of Wachapreague or anything up that way, and how we kind of like differentiate ourselves in these different zones. But this is my first time living in this sort of Middle Shore area, and it is exciting to see kids walking around with their bikes, around Exmoor downtown. And, we went and walked the other day looking at some of the local businesses that are there. Yeah, I mean, it's not Cape Charles yet, right? But I think there's.
And I don't know if it wants to be.
I don't. Then that was the point I was going to make. Right? Is like, Cape Charles is changing so much, in a very specific way. I feel like versus Exmoor is building up our Eastern Shore community more,
Yes.
you know, and like Sheridan is like a local spot, you know.
I agree, and the towns to the north of that they're magnificent towns. Melfa has a wonderful aura, and the people who live there have a lot of pride in their town. And of course, if you name one, you're going to skip more, but there's a lot of pride and great things happening in Anancock and Parksley. There's a new bakery in Bloxham, and Sax's has got it's got a great thing going with their oyster roast in the fall, and of course Chincoteague. There's a lot of great
Watch Your Break Carnival.
Watch Your Break
that's
Carnival's
right.
coming
That's
up.
right.
Chincoteague Carnival's coming
Yeah,
up.
so being in the position that you are in, right, as co-owner, right, of the Eastern Shore Post, I bet you see, like, you sort of have this perspective that a lot of people don't have, right? Being able to like sort of be in touch with all parts of the shore and writing stories about that. What's something that you think is really unique that's going on like right now or in the past?
You know, and you're exactly right. And that's one of the best parts of the job is that you develop friendships and relationships and links from one end of the Eastern Shore to the other. And then you really, in doing so, realize a lot of commonalities that exist between the communities. And I think that no matter what family you talk to or what government you talk to, what neighborhood you were in, if you asked them the top 10 things that they were concerned about, they'd all be the same. We all are concerned about the same things. So that's been a lot of fun. But you know, as
like you're connected. You're a people person, you know?
Who, me?
Yeah.
Not at all.
No, not at all.
no, it's introverted to the core.
Okay.
But you know, the process of being a journalist means that it gives you a reason to talk to people and ask them about things that might be cool in their community. And that's a lot of fun. It gives you a reason to step out from being an introvert.
See, that's and I love that. Again, that's like teaching baseball, and you know, you have to have a passion about it. You know, that's why I used to love, because he loved baseball, and also too, he was an awesome journalist. Like I remember, you know, back in the day when the Eastern Shore News, just the sports page was like 6, 7, 8 pages long. Like it was like thick. It was just as thick as the main sheets or whatever you want to call it. I just messed that up. I know.
You said it right.
Okay.
You said it right. Of course, you had a guy then, Greg Merritt, who was in charge of that. He lived the job. He was out every night. You could have two on a windy, cold Thursday night. 2 winless volleyball teams
Duking it out, yeah.
And he was there.
See,
He made
so
a
awesome.
big deal out of it. There may have been 25 people in the stands, and 24 of them were parents. But Greg was there. He was really the essence of dedication.
But dude, I love that. Like growing up, that's another thing too. That I'm so glad that you've kept the paper going, and you even had your own paper for a little bit.
Yeah.
How was that experience?
It was fascinating. So I was at the Eastern Shore News until I guess 2015. They eliminated my job as the editor there, and then I ended up as the editor of the Daily Times paper in Salisbury. So for about 2 years, so I just drove up and did that. This was a time of big cutbacks in corporate journalism. So when they eliminated that job, I just started my own around here.
That is so cool.
Just a monthly. That was a lot of fun.
Man, tell us what was some of the experiences of actually like having your own business like that and trying to get something rolling? Like how did that even work out?
It worked out because there was tremendous community support, and the Eastern Shore has always been one of those places that supports a newspaper, and you know, there's a million thanks to give for all the support that I had. my wife kept the books, so I didn't have to do that. And kind of writing the stories. And
isn't that awesome?
So-
That's like, you don't have to, something like that's major, you don't have to stress about. Like your wife was right there. It was like, let's go with this. Like this, we're all in on this.
exactly.
That is so cool, man.
And she is perfectly behind it. And we've hopefully been behind both of our careers.
Yeah, she's awesome, man. His wife is so cool because she and my sister were such good friends. I was like that punk little brother who was running upstairs and like throwing stuff at him, and
She never thought of you like that. Never thought of you as the punk little brother. She always took a shine to you.
yeah, I mean, and oh man, your parents and her parents, I knew them because I was Michelle's little brother, but then it was, no, this is David. They welcomed me with open arms too.
Mm-hmm.
That was really cool.
That is cool.
That's another thing about growing up on the shore is that you do that. You just bring everybody in and just put your arms around them and tell them how much you love them.
And fortunately, it's still like that.
Yeah.
There's people who are just good families and good people who they watch after their kids the same way they watch after everybody's children.
Mm-hmm.
What are some families that you were real close with growing up who actually had that effect on you and kind of like help raise you too? Do you remember some big ones?
There are a lot of them, and a lot of them were right through our graduating class, Northampton's class of '91, which your sister was involved in, and my wife, and of course my wife's family. We dated through high school, and she's been. Her parents were just like that. It's like my own parents and my parents were like that. So it's neat that those types of families that in the Eastern Shore way, like we were talking about, you might not see them every single day, but you've always known them, and you see them in the grocery store, at the Watchbridge Carnival or the Shingatig Carnival, or you see them around. You just catch up where you left off.
Yeah, it was really cool. Yesterday, had a baseball game that was postponed from Saturday, and my Uncle Phil and Aunt Carolyn came out there. Haven't seen them in forever, and they're right in Eastville, but it's just life just kind of just pushes you like all over the place. But it's so cool that they could come back just to watch a baseball game, and it was like I haven't seen them in eons, and it was really cool too because at one point Robert Carpenter, who was a phenomenal pitcher growing up too.
Mm-hmm.
I think you guys played on some teams together, right?
I remember him, yeah.
Yeah. So his son Brantley was pitching and my son was catching, and I and I went up to my Uncle Phil and I was like, "Hey, Uncle Phil, look at that." And he's looking out on the mound. He's like, "Who is that?" I said, "That's Robert Carpenter's son." And he goes, "Oh yeah, man, I love Bobby Carpenter."
Mm-hmm.
And then I was like, "Who's that catching?" And he goes, "Man, I don't know, man, but he moves like you." And I was like, is that a good thing or a bad thing? But it was awesome because he was like, man, a Carpenter is pitching to his styles.
Yeah.
We haven't had that since Cape Charles high school days. Stuff like that. Like Robert was 5, I think you guys were about the same age or whatever.
He's a little younger.
And so like he was kind of like a lot older than me. And so we really didn't play a lot of ball together, but it's really cool that our sons are the same age. But my dad and his dad were like really good friends in Cape Charles growing up, and they were family too. So like the Carpenters, because I traced my genealogy, and Julia May Carpenter married John Wesley Stiles in Wachapreague. And so that's the Carpenters and the Stileses, became family then, and like we were all close and stuff. And growing up down at Kings Creek, down at the old marina, Robert and I used to take black drum from the marina store side, and we take it over where his dad, my uncle, were cleaning the drum.
Yeah.
And it was an art form. Have you ever seen a black drum cleaned?
With like a hoe?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
And shovel.
Oh, yeah.
There's an art form to it, dude.
Oh, yeah. I mean, the fish is as big as this table. Not maybe as big as this table, but
Yeah, so
it's cool to watch.
It is, and it's so cool because I got to see his dad and my uncle and my dad and do this too, and my other uncles, but they had it down. And there was one year, like, gosh, probably like 84, 85, 86 was huge black drum time. Do you remember those days? Like we were bringing drum in and out, like it was crazy. Mm-hmm. And of course, like there was no limits back then. So some boats were coming in with like 22, 25 black drum. So we got to see from like the very beginning of like when this place really took off back in, the island days, Cobb Island and Hog Island. And, there's presidents that used to come here.
Yeah, I think
Grover Cleveland.
Grover Cleveland. Thank you. Yeah.
Stopped in Exmoor and took the train to Exmoor and then went to
The
Hog
ferry.
Island.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think both Hog and Cobb. And, so like this place was massive back then. Like what are some of the old stories that used to like really draw you in and like you still think about that you want to see like something to come back from that age?
From that age, and I keep on going back to the downtowns and the importance of developing those, because some of those stories came from your merchants and your shopkeepers who ran your stores there. And where I grew up, it was a quick bike ride to John Green's store, which was in Fairview, Virginia, and is an African-American man who had a very successful business and repair shop in a gas station. And you would go and Mr. Green and I had a great relationship. And later on, you'd go in there and buy a knee-high, Later on, when I got a job with the paper, I'd say, I want to write about you. I want to write about you and your wife.
Cool.
And the coolest thing was that he took it and kind of framed it on his Lance cracker rack. So you would see it every time you went in there. Fantastic.
That's a badge of honor, dude.
That is.
Exactly. It was but these downtown stores were, even you mentioned the Tatums who ran Sheridan Supermarket. And they knew you and they knew your family, and
Yeah.
But not just mine. They knew everybody.
Your people. Yeah.
Mr. Green knew everybody, and to go in there, it's not quite the same experience as going in, a big box store, a chain grocery store.
Yeah.
So that kind of familiarity, I think serves everybody well.
It really does. It really does. And, Parksley even had I think 2 grocery stores, and Cape Charles had 3 or 4 grocery stores, and Chincoteague had, and
Nancock had I'm sure they had more back in the day, but they had the meat lane going into town.
Oh yeah.
On the right side, and so many stores in the downtown that you would go in there and there was you appreciated the familiarity that went with it. Chincoteague is the same way.
yeah, I'm a Chincoteaguer. I was born on Chincoteague, and
I remember that.
Yeah. So there's a place in my heart with Chincoteague. I was an up the road kid.
Yep.
A Tigger for a little bit, and
That's sorry.
No, I was going to say some of them still claim me. So
Do they?
Yeah.
That's how you know that somebody's not from here if they're down in Cape Charles and they're like, yeah, I'm going to go down the road to Exmoor. It's like,
That was
oh man, you're killing me. You're killing me.
one of the geographical and linguistic problems
Yeah.
that we have is the whole up the road and down the road thing, where it's disorienting when we're sitting in Bellhaven and you say, I'm going to go down to Only,
Yeah.
and it's out of joint.
It is.
You never say that, but the if you're going to somewhere that's just off from somewhere, you're going over. If you're in Sheridan and you're going to Cape Charles, I'm going over.
To Cape Charles. Yeah.
If you're in Only and you're going to Nancock, you're going over to Nancock.
just as important as Bayside, Seaside.
Yeah.
Yeah.
To have your up and down, your geographical up and downs is important.
When I was early in my Air Force career, I went out to Carson City and the capital of Nevada, and out there for a softball tournament. I played for Air Force softball teams and had a blast with that. And so I always did tournaments and stuff. And we actually went out to Carson City, and I sat down at the blackjack table for the first time, dude. Not even 21 yet. And, they didn't even card me.
Yeah.
And but I was the youngest one on the team. Like the rest of the guys were over 21. So it's either, and this literally happened. I used to like babysit their kids and stuff because they're like, this guy can't go out.
Yeah.
You know? So they're like, hey, you mind watching blah, blah, blah. And so I'm like, dude.
Really? Come on.
So it was either that or go to the casino. And I was like, I'm going to the casino.
Did you win any money?
So yeah. So I learned a lot of lessons that night. And the first one was, and it's always stuck with me, is the
Casino lessons.
is I was sitting at the blackjack table and I was doing everything to try to act cool because I did not want to be carded. You know, so
Act cool.
I'm sitting there and I'm just like having a blast and talking to the dealer and everybody beside me. And then like this lady comes up and she's like, what do you want to have to drink? And I'm like, dude, do I say Coke or do I say I want like a beer or something? You know, I'm like, she goes, you just want me to get you a bottle of beer? And I'm like, yeah, sure. That sounds cool.
Nice.
It's free in casinos. I had no idea.
Yeah, that's how they get you.
And so I learned a very important lesson that night was that these drinks kept coming out and I was having such a blast. And I mean, I was like having the time of my life. Like, dude, this is the coolest thing ever. I'm not even 21. I'm gambling in Carson City, the capital, like, you know, the old Western stories about Carson City and, you know, shootouts and stuff. And I'm there at the blackjack table. And then one of the dealers comes up as the second one. So the first one was really cool because she knew. I mean, they knew.
Yeah,
they knew
yeah,
I was,
yeah.
dude, come on, really?
Yeah.
But she was really cool with me and had a blast. And then this new dealer, they swap out. And she's like, she looks at me and she goes, are you having fun? And I'm like, man, I love Nevada. And she looks at me and she goes, it's Nevada. And I was like, oh,
Well, it's
my
funny
gosh.
because when you initially started this story, I was like, he said Nevada. And I was like, I thought it was Nevada.
No, it is not.
Out there, it's Nevada.
Nevada. Just like
Dude.
Oregon or Oregon.
Talk
Yeah.
about like total buzzkill. Like I was like, oh my gosh, she knows. And now she's mad at me because I said the wrong thing. I'm like, they're going to kick me out.
Oh, that's good.
As my understanding, in my experience, over here on the East Coast, it's the Appalachian match,
Ooh.
and then over on the other side of Virginia, it's the Appalachian.
Appalachia.
That's wild.
Yeah.
I love it. I love that.
Appalachia.
I mean,
But you know, your up and down the road made me think of other Eastern Shore.
Please. Expressions or.
Well, for instance, not everything on the Eastern
I
Shore.
love Ted stories.
Yeah.
Not everything on the Eastern Shore is what we call it. If you were looking at a map, say you were a fisherman or an angler, and you were looking at a map of the Eastern Shore and you were checking everything out, you would probably say that the best place to go fishing on the Eastern Shore for fishermen was Fisherman Island. It's called Fisherman Island.
Yeah, makes sense, right?
But there are no fishermen allowed on Fisherman Island. It should be called No Fisherman Island.
Yeah. That is interesting. I've never thought about that before.
Well, do you know what Fisherman's Island actually started as?
The shipwreck.
Was it like they were? Oh, I was talking to somebody the other day about how they wanted to find like an old isolation jail site or something.
It was a quarantine.
It was a
camp.
That's what a quarantine zone. Yeah.
Right. So they came in and they would have to stay for 40 days for the quarantine. Right. That's why it's called quarantine. 40 days that they had to stay out there. And that's what Fisherman's Island was before they stepped off and actually came to the mainland of the shore.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Interesting.
It's one of those, they don't let fishermen there.
Right.
No, they don't.
You went to Northampton Middle School.
Yes.
Do you remember what the mascot was?
The Golden Bulls.
So what do they call the girls' teams? The Lady Bulls.
The Lady Bulls.
How can you have a Lady
You
Bull?
can't.
Yeah, I know.
All right, here's another one. Our school systems, they don't like to have division in the school system. They like to have everybody on one page, no division. But what do they call themselves?
Divisions.
They call themselves a school division.
Yeah.
We don't like our governments to be complex.
Mm-hmm.
We like our governments to be understandable, not complex. But what do we call our collections of government buildings? The complex. That's what we do on
It's
these
funny,
shows.
actually. Somebody brought something like that up the other day. That was like, we live in this group of houses together. They should be called togetherments, but instead, they're apartments. I thought that was good.
That is a great one.
That's awesome.
George Carlin said you don't drive on a parkway and park in a driveway.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Carlin, dude,
I hit the mic. Sorry about that.
that was one of those things that growing up watching for the first time George Carlin. And
Oh, yeah.
I was
He's
just
pretty
like, what
good.
am I even watching?
He's
Like
pretty
I didn't understand a lot of it because I was so young. Like looking back now, what he was actually telling us is actually pretty crazy. I'm talking like deep down into the weeds type
Yeah, it's
stuff.
brilliant.
And I see that now and I'm like, oh my gosh, like I get it.
Mm-hmm.
Here's a word, because I mess with words during the day. Here's a word that I learned this year, and it's what we've been doing. This is perfect. My son sprung this on me. I was telling him about me playing baseball. And my son rolled his eyes and he said, Dad lore.
Tad lure?
L-O-R-E.
U-R-E?
L-O-R-E.
L-O-R-E.
Dad lore. This is the folklore of my father.
Oh, that's cool.
Dad lore. It's one of the words that I learned. And so now when I'm self-conscious, it's like having a dad joke.
Yeah.
You don't want to have a dad joke. It's dad
man.
lore.
And that's like a product of society in general, right? As younger generations trying to be more hip and more, different than their parents, right? So now like it's like OMW on my way, BTW, be right back, or by the way,
I couldn't imagine
and
teaching high school.
it's like they're speaking a different. I don't know what's happening.
It's like Riz. Riz
yeah.
is, and I said, what is Riz? And somebody said, well, think of it as charismatic. So it's like charisma.
Yeah.
Got Riz.
Mm-hmm.
I said dad lore and Riz. I love these. I learned another one last week. What's tomorrow? It's tax day, right? So we're paying taxes, but what's the biggest tax you pay? It's time tax. It's a big waste of your time. It's like an activity trap.
Yeah.
Time tax. How much tax do we pay during the day with time tax?
I never thought about that.
I love the word time tax. I just learned that word the other day.
Dude, yeah, I just say burning calories. Like if I'm actually going to burn calories, I want it to mean something. I want it to like, if I'm going to give, I want to make sure that like I see something that I can hold on to or that I can appreciate or, so that's what I'm like. I'm like, if I'm going to burn calories to something, like I'm going to make it mean something because I'm going to put my time and effort into it, my time tax into it.
That's a good point about like different vocabulary though. Like, do you feel like your evolution as a writer has changed through different generations or?
Well, reporting or writing is a practice. So you hope that, you grow and you read something you like or you read a style you like. So hopefully it has. But the words, and you can't use all these words like car bar. It's one of my favorite
Car bar?
Car bar. I said, what is a car bar? And they said, well, it's one of those places that you go to and the price of drinks is really high.
Uh-huh.
So you keep a lot of drinks in your car. You just go out and fill your cup up in the car. I said, what a great term, car bar. So I'm learning all this.
It is very creative. Like,
Here's one I heard the other day. Somebody was trying, I love this. This is going to be, I got to do a story about this. Somebody was kind of taking something into a building that they weren't supposed to take into a building.
Okay.
So we're going to Anne Frank it in there. We're going to Anne Frank this into the building. We're going to Anne Frank it right there. I said that. I got exactly what they were talking about.
Oh my goodness.
And if you've never read the Diary of Anne Frank, you can read it. It's like the heaviest thing in the world.
Oh yeah.
But they were going to Anne Frank it in there.
That's cool.
And I said
That's just
What a
cool to
great
say.
use of the language.
Yes,
Mhm.
exactly. I love that.
We have a kitty cat at home, and when I make the kitty cat mad, the kitty cat gets what I have airplane ears. And I said, what a perfect description. The cat's ears
Yeah.
flay out like an airplane. So I love this contemporary jargon.
You just can't go too far because you still have to, keep the folks from the boomers and stuff. You got to make sure that they're still with it, or you can teach them that. That's what you should do. You should start doing that.
Yeah.
Laying it out in the paper
Word of
every
the
week.
week.
Yes, exactly.
I've tried to write something at the end of the year about all the words that I learned.
Yes, yes, I've seen that before.
So, what is the name of somebody who just puts everything on social media? It's a post princess.
A post princess.
We all know them.
Oh yeah.
They're post princess. Everything goes on social media. They don't have a secret unshared.
Yeah. We were talking about today at school your online activity, and who you are as a digital citizen might be different than who you are in person, right? And that kind of leads to your post princess point,
I can guarantee you, your digital citizen is your best face forward. It's your well scrubbed,
Absolutely, yeah.
well vacuumed,
filtered and cropped.
It always is.
Yeah.
Nickel rocket.
Nickel rocket.
That's a cheapskate. He's a nickel rocket.
Okay.
I never even
Okay.
heard that term.
So, I need to start using that up at Wallops.
Yeah.
So if it doesn't go, I'm like, it's just a nickel rocket.
It's just a nickel rocket.
The guy left a bad tip. He's just an old nickel rocket.
I love that. Can I use that? Is that cool if I use it up
I'm
at
writing
Wallops?
these all down.
I've trademarked none of this.
Dude, seriously,
And
I never write down. Look, Charlie has done a phenomenal job. Like, if it wasn't for Charlie,
Some of the stuff
I
is
bring
good.
this in here and I don't use it because I just get so into everything, and I'm like, my thought is that I'm going to go back and watch this, and so I'm like, then I'll start writing it down then, because I'm trying to. But dude, I'm telling you right now, that's going to be like priceless by the time
There's
we're done with that.
your article right here.
That's right.
There you go.
We had talked about when before we went on, we talked about this little piece I wrote about the leadership that I
Yes,
recognize.
I want to talk about that. Thank you. Yes.
That this is something that you talk about. What happened then that you would like to see now?
Mm-hmm.
And I thought about most recently the adults that I knew as a child, and they were understated. They didn't talk about themselves. They didn't. They weren't animated. When you told them great news, they didn't overreact. And when you told them bad news, they didn't overreact. They were problem solvers. They rooted for you if you were a kid. Most of the heroes that I knew, is the people I consider heroes, the people I consider leaders when I was growing up. They always took time to talk to a kid. They would ask you, what's Santa Claus bringing for you? Or, you had a girlfriend yet? Or some of this good-natured banter.
Mm-hmm.
But they cared.
They cared. And it reminded me, after I wrote this, about the contemporary language of leadership, which I think is fascinating. And I began to jot some of it down. The contemporary language of when I was growing up, leaders didn't talk that much. They made decisions and they didn't complain. Instead, they just got stuff fixed. They didn't complain. To complain wasn't a leader.
Mm.
You just got stuff fixed. But the language of leadership today is so different. I wrote some of it down. We're always breaking down silos or stepping up to the plate. We're always have a paradigm shift.
I've heard that before.
That's the contemporary language of leadership. We're getting granular on things. If we're not getting granular, then we're just not doing our jobs. And we all become change agents. It's how did this happen? We're going to use community-centered approaches to go viral. It's the very next gen. all this language of leadership today. How do you find this even believable? We're going to drill down. Everybody's drilling down on something.
Yeah.
The analytics and the metrics. It's a game changer. When was the last time somebody told you it was a game changer? Did you want to punch
All
them in
the time.
Punch them in the face.
Should I? Yeah.
We're going to find our pain points. It used to be we had frustrations. Today we have pain points. We're going to have pain points in this. But we got to get buy-in.
Mm-hmm. We got to get by.
You know, we're going to dare
Go
to dream.
viral. Yeah.
There's lots of moving parts. So let's touch base soon.
Let's touch base.
My door is always open. Anybody who ever told you my door is always open, don't go in. We're going to have team building exercises to get everybody on the same page because it's mission critical. I know we all have a full plate, but we're going to stay out of the weeds, but stay in your lanes. We're going to have a value added approach because it's a diamond in the rough, what we're looking at.
Yeah.
We're going to unpack the metrics. We're going to lean in. If somebody tells you to lean in, leave the room. Because we need to be disruptors. Because what's the most overused term in leadership now? It's bandwidth. It used to be getting internet in your house. Now it's workforce capacity. We have the bandwidth to do it.
Yeah. That is a problem here on the Eastern Shore, right?
Bandwidth? What, are you talking about internet connectivity or are you talking about workforce capacity?
I think of it, yeah.
We're going to do a deep dive and take a holistic approach.
Mm-hmm. I've heard that.
Did any of the heroes of your youth use this language?
So
That was a lot, by the way. That was impressive.
no, that right there, that's what I've seen for the last 17 years in my world, right?
Yeah.
And during government projects, and which 99% of my experience has been amazing. I've met some really great people. I've done some really, really cool things. I've been a part of some projects that were like it actually was that wow factor for me, even at my age. I'm getting old. And so to be a part of all of this and to have just such an amazing experience, and I'm seeing things that I'm seeing now, but they've been slowly creeping up on us, especially from what I've seen. Like, you know, when I first went in the Air Force, I got to see the glory days of the military before 9/11. Like, it was like really cool to like do that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Then 9/11 happened and things changed after that, and then the whole world changed, and like I didn't have fun anymore. Like, I was like, oh man, like there's things happening now that I'm seeing things like, you know what, let me try something new. I really want to get to something new. And so I got out in 9.5 years. I went to Lockheed Martin, worked for Skunk Works, got to see some really cool things there, dude. Like,
I didn't know you were in for 9.5 years.
Yeah.
Thank you for your service.
I do. I appreciate it. And I loved it. I loved it. Even when I was literally working 24/7, deployed all the time. Like, I was, lived in Korea for 2 years, and I was deployed to the desert all the time. And, I still had a blast, but it took a toll on me. And I was like, man, you know what? There's things that are, out in the outside that, dude, I can do that. Like, I'm working with, Lockheed Martin products now with the U2, and I've got to do some really cool things. And so I was able to go over and work for Lockheed and got to live that life for a little bit, but was brought back to the shore. Wallops brought me back, and it's been phenomenal for the 17 years I've been there. But what you said right there on those words, like, really hit home for me, because I see the next shift happening, and space flight's going fully commercial. It's happening. The air, you have aircraft who have been flying for 100 years, longer than 100 years, since the early 1900s. And all of that is pretty much privatized for the most part. They're self-governing. They do their own thing. Mm-hmm. Space flight's coming to that. And we've talked about it on here before. It's happening here on the Eastern Shore. Like, we're going to see the next boon in the next, walking on the shoulders of giants type thing where, Werner von Braun and Kelly Johnson were here at Wallops Island testing. And they're legendary, Operation Paperclip and started Skunk Works and SR-71, all that stuff. So I'm bringing all of this up because like it means a ton to me, man, to be a part of this, and Lucas is a part of it, and we're all a part of it here on the shore. But I'm seeing everything you're saying there that needs to be fixed. That's happening for us too, and I see that, and we've gotten that culture. We've gotten comfortable. We make more excuses than actually bring solutions to the table. We're just, things are just kind of moving along because they always have. And they want to keep that there, and we can't innovate anymore. We can't actually think big like we used to. And so that's all going to the commercial side now. Those guys can think, those guys can do, those guys are going to innovate. And so we're moving away because of a lot of those things that you said right there. Like I forgot exactly one of them that I have to come back to it, but it bums me out, man. Because like I work for NASA now, and like that's huge. And that's what I want to be a part of, but that's going away because we have to, because we've painted ourselves in the corner with so many rules and regulations and red tape and feelings. And, I think it should be like this. Don't come at you with actual black and white. They keep it gray just enough so that we can still launch rockets. But that's it. We can't like actually have fun with it anymore. And that's happening on the commercial side. And that's going to happen at Wallops. Commercials coming in. Rocket Lab, is going to be doing major things up there. The Neutron, it even says it on their website that it's designed for manned flight. This is the only Neutron pad in the whole entire world is here. We're going to be launching exclusively from here. Like people don't realize we're going to see manned flight on the Eastern Shore. Go ahead.
Your comment, to quote you, people don't realize, and I know that's not where you were going with that, is always hits me because that is the media's responsibility to make people realize. And I challenge you to explain to these people. They don't have to rely on the newspaper or any media, but explaining to the Eastern Shore what happens at Rocket Lab and NASA, the Navy and NOAA, all of those, the industrial park up there. It's critical.
Very critical.
Explaining that. And so I always come back to the communication aspect. How are we telling people what we're doing? There's a lot in the NASA community, or I say NASA. There's a lot in the Wallops community to be explained, and who's going to explain that? Is it going to be the newspaper? Is it going to be the government entities? Is it going to be the private enterprise is launching up there? Because people do on the Eastern Shore, they want to know because they want to take pride in it.
Yeah.
They don't want to pick it. They don't want to be nosy. They're proud that this is happening on the Eastern Shore.
And I've seen that up there. Like, it's because I feel that way. Like I'm from here. I want this to succeed, and I want them to feel the same thing that I'm feeling right now.
That's amazing.
Because it's really cool that this is going to take place. So we all need to embrace this. And that's why one of the main things about having this, what we're doing here, is that we can use this to get the word out. So people can understand like the Eastern Shore and help local businesses out and help move what we're seeing into the 21st century and beyond, and how it's actually going to happen right here. Like we're going to see historical things happen.
And it's not only the government or the private enterprise, it's the contractors.
That's right.
The contractors up there have a fascinating story.
That's right.
And they employ well over 1,000 people all together up there. And They're providing skilled jobs, important jobs in this community. And for even those contractors to reach out into the community and explain what they're doing, I think is paramount to the understanding of what's going on up there.
That's why I've really been beating the drum too for this Aerospace Academy of the Eastern Shore that's starting up this year, where freshmen for our local high schools are going to begin to do a lab school type environment and start taking classes and start thinking what's coming to the Eastern Shore from a high tech aspect. But it's not just engineering; it's exactly what you said. Like, we need welders, and we have really good welders here. Like, I'm telling you, man, these guys are so. Growing up, seeing what I saw from the fisherman's perspective and the crab boat captains, and the dredgers in the winter, that those guys designed that stuff and they were using it, and this was like some pretty like ingenious stuff. Like these guys, and it was done by watermen, and so we had that tradition here of guys just. And they don't even realize it.
Practical engineering, yeah.
That's right. I mean,
what a great term.
And they build it themselves too. They were the designer, they were the builder, they were the user. I mean, they were everything, and they took pride in it.
Mm-hmm.
And I see that with our contract folks here, is that they take pride in it because it's ingrained in them. The farmers that are here and how those family businesses, and that was to survive. And then you not only could you survive and do something that you loved, but you could also provide to like the local community. And that's why I got to see that. I got to and the contractors who are from here and the folks who are from here that work at Wallops, they got to see that, and they're putting that into Wallops. And it's really cool. It's really cool to see.
And so the next step of that is its impact on the community. So we happen to live in Virginia. We would love for these people to settle in Agamack County, in the Eastern Shore of Virginia. So our government, what are we doing to ensure that there is residential development and commercial development in this Wallops corridor?
Yeah, and schools and hospitals and infrastructure that can support things like that. Yeah.
And when you talk infrastructure, you're talking about none of these entities want to be in the water or wastewater business.
Yeah.
And so, our offices happen to be in the town of Exmoor, which is just completed. It's a new upgrade for wastewater. And so how does that happen on the Shingatig Road corridor going into Wallops? How do we provide this infrastructure to accommodate this growth? Because it's got to happen. Because your tax base, you want this to be in Virginia. Because Pocomoke City is playing for these. They could just as easily live in Maryland.
Yeah.
So it's such an opportunity. It's not only to be a part of the history and the future at Wallops, but what did the Huey Long, the politician from Louisiana, say? It's not the brakes, it's how you use them. We have a great opportunity here. How are we going to use it?
Also, I see it too. We hit on this last week, but I want to open up another spaceport. And, Northampton County could get in on this too. We could actually have, and I'm using New Zealand as an example. So Rocket Lab has a complex in New Zealand. Have you seen that?
No, you're getting into something that might not be in my lifetime.
So no, but I'm saying, but listen to this though.
I will listen.
So,
I'll listen to anything you say.
Because I want Northampton to get a piece of this too. And you would have one thing that we do at Wallops. We do a lot of things awesome, but like one thing that like we do really, really well is we jive with nature up there, believe it or not.
I believe it.
The conservation efforts and the environmental efforts that take place up there are the best I've ever seen.
I believe it.
And the footprint that we leave is very minimal compared to other places in the world that do what we do. And New Zealand, where Rocket Lab opened up, is such a beautiful place. Like I want to go there one day. I haven't been there, but I've studied like their complex, and I've poured through their documents trying to get them approved to fly here, and like really did a deep dive into it. But I always think of the old Air Force Station down in Kipta Peak. And we could put a launch site there, and the inhabitants don't exist in this massive area. Like you could easily, like we would never have to worry about anything falling on top of a house like we do up at Wallops. And it opens up to so much more capability. You're still doing the same coordination with the FAA. You're still doing the same coordination with the local merchant vessels. You're still doing the same coordination with the range, because you would set up a range down there and we would have everything. But we do it all the time. We do mobile sites. We go down to Coquina and we have a mobile site on the Outer Banks, because we literally leave no footprint, but we actually have equipment down there that we use to launch rockets at Wallops. We do in Bermuda. We do all these places around the world. Norway is another prime example where it's in a precious area, and we're able to go to space, and you wouldn't have to change anything, as in the local community, because everybody would want to live in Cape Charles. They would commute back and forth. You may have some that buy houses down there, but we keep it quaint down there for a reason. It's really beautiful down there, and we would still keep it that way. And now, granted, we may rattle some windows down there when we do some launches, but we actually could set up something like this down there, and it'd be so much fun to see a rocket go up down out of Kipta Peak.
Yeah, you've got a couple. If the past is prologue, your impediments would be, and I'm not saying that I'm coming at this from just an objective viewpoint. I'm not saying that I'm in favor or not.
No, we're having fun. This is my brain.
We're throwing it out. Yeah,
your impediments would be that it's a critical piece of the Atlantic Migratory Flyway, and a lot of the property down there has been purchased and set aside for you don't want any launches messing up the wildfowl migration.
That's right.
And then I don't know if that part of Northampton County is ready for an influx of residential.
Well, it goes back to your point, infrastructure and what are we going to do,
That might even be more than infrastructure. That might be a zoning issue. I mean,
but see, the thing is like with me, I commute 45 minutes to Wallops, and I'm from here, and we're starting this pipeline now where we're going to start, really showing young kids, young ninth graders, what it is to do this at a very young age. And then they're going to come up with this, and they're going to just want to stay here where they are, maybe build a home, but stay kind of close to where their families are and establish roots. So, you really, the human footprint is very minimal for this.
I agree. But it has to be, the human footprint has to, if the past is prologue, the way the counties work, it would have to be in a place where they want growth, where they want residential growth. Not all places on the Eastern Shore want that.
That's a good point.
I know, but that's what makes us so special here, is that we have, it's when folks started moving out of the city, 2020, 2021, people is mass exodus from all cities in the world, and especially here in the United States. And, that's why Cape Charles has been able to, it totally grew from that, like big time. Like it's really, and granted, I know we started seeing things happen in Cape Charles around the early 2000s. But like I've really noticed it the last 4 or 5 years, and but they're bringing pride because they saw what we had down here, and they're bringing love. And that's why all these things are starting to come up, because people are back here and they're like, man, we want to rebuild this area and help you guys do this. And really, because we just love this. Like, this is how life should be. And I love it. I love seeing, I really want Tasley. Tasley's one of the towns that I love driving through. Tasley. It's small, but if you go down Main Street, Tasley, and you look at what it was, back in the railroad
days,
coming through here, like you can see like what they were thinking and how they wanted the town to set up and how it just, the railroad came through and it just naturally occurred. But like, I bet Tasley was an awesome town.
Well, it was Accomack Station. That's where you got off the train to go to the county seat. It's probably why they, in the late 1800s, there was some talk about moving the county seat to Parksley. I think it was voted down or something. But Tasley is kind of where you would get off the train.
So how did Exmoor get its name? Do you know that?
I have no idea.
Was it 10 stops south of Delmar?
Yep. So it was Exmoor stops to go. It was 10, Roman numeral 10.
Oh.
And so
wow.
they knew from that station that they had 10 more stops until they got there. And they're like, okay, it's Exmoor. And that's how Exmoor got its name.
Interesting.
So you have a lot of the Native American names for towns around here. But that shows you what the railroad did for that. I mean, all those towns, like I love driving Seaside, Bayside. I take my time going and coming to work, to and fro work, because I love going to the back roads.
Yeah.
And I love going, from Wallops, and I hit the Bayside Road and I follow the railroad. And so that's like pretty much business 13 all the way down, I guess, and it's following the railroad. And you get to see how that naturally, all those towns just developed along that route. And there's some towns, man, that I can see the love that they had in them when they first built them. And there's still things that, are still there in those areas that you're like, man, I wonder what that was.
It's a wonderful thing to do, what you're doing. If you have to make that drive every day there to ride Bayside Road or Seaside Road, to turn by, as we say, colloquial, Zion Church, and go up through that way, or just go 316 all the way up. And then every once in a while, take a spur off of that. You can't do that on the way to work. At least I couldn't.
Yeah.
Because I was always running late. But on the way home, to take a side road off of there. The northwestern part of Accomack County, the northern Bayside.
It's big.
You could get lost for days.
Oh,
Yes.
yeah.
Oh, yes.
And that's like part of like what I was saying, being up in the Middle Shore area. I'd never been to Harbison. I mean, talk about like a hidden gem, all of these places off of these back roads that are like little vibrant communities,
And keep going. And the next time, keep going to Hack's Neck to the and see what's down there. And it's too few people do that.
Yeah.
This Eastern Shore is a fascinating place.
And
like you just said, you can kind of picture out how, in my lifetime, Hallwood had a sweet potato cannery, the John W. Taylor Packing Company. They canned sweet potatoes.
The cannery in Sheridan, they used to be there.
yeah.
That's right.
Kane Miller.
And these were, that's right. Before that, it was Webster's.
That's right. Webster's, yes.
And you can see that how Hallwood built around this place. It's kind of cool to see.
It is cool. It's like human geography in a way,
Exactly.
Yeah, it's the beauty about this place, and that's why I take the time to do that, because again, you get to understand why things are the way they are around here, and the towns and stuff that were off on the Bayside, Seaside that we were talking about a while ago. And just to be able to experience that is just amazing.
I know, it's cool. It's like I find something different, every time I go out cruising, and I think that's neat. Like you can get off of the highway, off of 13, and then just be like so lost.
And I still do. Like I'll go up to the Pocomoke, gosh, or if I go up to Pocomoke, I'm coming back
Mhm.
at the line. As soon as I hit the state line, I'll make that right there, and I'll follow that all the way down Bayside as much as I can, and try to hug the coastline and not have to get back to where the railroad. I'm trying to get back to the old roads that were established because of the fishing routes.
Yeah.
And that's why I like Harborton. Harborton was there because of the fishing industry.
Mhm.
You know, so and then so it shows you like the fishing industry, the railroad, like all these little places that set up Watchaprig, fishing industry, and then the crossroads that get you there.
You know, it's funny because I was talking to my students the other day about social media and how the world is like so connected now, and how things like the ice bucket challenge went viral again. It was like 2000. That was like when I was in high school, we were doing ice bucket challenge, and here they are, like, and they're like But anyway, like they do feel that our world might be too connected through social media, right? And the pendulum is starting to swing back, like maybe more towards these, like you're talking about, communities. You know, like you never have to leave Cape Charles. It's got everything in there, you know, and like. It's interesting to think about. We're always like, oh, I wish I was, you know, back in Cowboys and Indians days, you know, when, you know, it was the wild, wild west in technology. And I think there is a way to still preserve that technology, right? But still be more self-reliant in a way, or independent. And I don't know. I thought that was interesting to hear that from the students, that we might be too connected.
Dude, I wish Ted was in here, because that's a good segue into kind of the regionalization of this area now, and I wonder what he thinks about like how globalization of goods and stuff is kind of it's at a standstill, or it's going to be at a standstill because the dollars are going to stop moving.
Yeah,
and so like setting up new industry in this area now is going to be massive, because we don't have the railroad here up until you get up to closer to the state line, but you still have a straight north-south route that can deliver things easily back and forth, and just in this region. And that would, you know, if kind of like setting up the Exmoor, the t-shirt factory in Exmoor again, and setting up goods and services. Yeah, I wonder what he thinks about that.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's definitely possible to be too connected. That's for sure.
Right.
You know,
right.
Like where it's starting to have negative effects. It's, you know, something that I think about a lot.
Yeah.
You know, like being too connected, and how maybe a pendulum is swinging back towards more of a community type of feel.
Now, how can you be too connected?
That's what I was just talking about. You know, trends are move so quickly now, and with new language developing, you know, like in terms of BTW and all that jargon, right? I think, I don't know. Can you be? I think, I don't know if you can be too connected, to a maximum, but I think that there might be negative effects to being this connected, right?
Well, I just think that
I don't know if it's bad, but there can be negative things. Sorry.
Well, no, what we're seeing now is just people are getting an overload of information.
That's what it is. Yeah.
And you know, and they're looking at everything going on in the world, where they really just need to focus back here. Focus here first, right here. Seriously,
he's touching his chest.
Yeah. Focus here first, and understand, you know, a few things before you understand yourself first before you go out and try to help somebody. Because, and the reason why I'm saying that is that once you know yourself, you can easily find the people who are just like you, or that you've seen, because you saw something growing up, and you look at this, you know, somebody and like, man, like, I remember going through that. I want to lend them a hand. And so you want to be prepared for that, because it happens every day, and we don't even realize it. That's why one of the reasons why, you know, depression is so high, and things that are going on, is because mostly all people want is just a hug. Seriously, like everybody just wants a hug. And, you know, we're so involved with looking at everything out here, that the things here close to us, they need a hug, man. And we're getting that. We're getting these areas are finally starting to happen, but the younger generation needs to be a part of this too, and we need to have them realize that.
And how do you do that? I mean, that's a big question. If you look at the average age of the people who run for election on the Eastern Shore, and it could be, and we all go through this. We have young children, or we have other interests or other hobbies. But at what point do you say, I think there's a lot of people who are like me, who feel like me, and maybe I'm going to run for the board of supervisors, or the school board, or the town council, or be on the planning commission, or even take a leadership role that's not elected. And I'm just going to.
Yeah, I think it's what we were kind of like talking about, like in terms of this podcast, sort of creating momentum and a possible, aligning people of similar, thoughts, and like getting that out, this concept, these ideas out there that, we are here to support, in that sort of, aspect.
What I'm saying is so simple, because you just said it too. It's like, what does everybody want and need? Nobody has. Well, start with a hug first. Like just start something that simple and be like, you know what? We're going to do this together, and we're actually going to come out of this comfort zone. And we see things that, there's some things that are getting wonky. There's some things that are changing, but there's needed, nobody likes change, whether it's needed or not. Like nobody needs a hurricane, but my house it was destroyed, so I have to rebuild that. But out of that though, once you break all that stuff down and people finally change their want tos, and they want to see it get better now, because it's got to a point they're like, whoa, this is crazy now. We got to fix this. Yeah. And so people have got to change their want tos and really want to, it's all hands on deck at this point. And just because what's happening out in the world, it's going to impact here. So how do we get ahead of that? Like, what are some of the things that we could start doing here that really is going to be needed here very quickly?
Well, one of the things that the Eastern Shore has on its side, and that we're kind of already ahead of it a little bit, is that we kind of have a closely knit community. You go somewhere and they say, well, where are you from? I'm from Virginia, but I'm from the Eastern Shore of Virginia. I'm not from over there. And so we support, Charlie Daniels had a song about 45 years ago. And it was talking about America. And he said, we may have done a little bit of fighting among ourselves, but you outside people best leave us alone. And that's the way the Eastern Shore is a little bit. We may have fought among ourselves, but we all stand together.
That's how it was growing up here.
Yeah, and that's Little League, right? On the baseball field.
But in school, and like we all loved each other so much, but dude, don't come in and mess with us.
That's exactly the way it is. And it happens even, you root for the person who may have gone to a different high school than you, who may have been, suddenly he's in the NCAA tournament, or suddenly he's done well for himself. He's in the NFL. It doesn't matter if he went to a different high school or lives in a different county. He's from the Eastern Shore.
That's right.
And that kind of community pride is very difficult to get. I don't know if it happened. And, it's our geography we're cut off from the rest of the state.
Yeah.
And so we've kind of depended on each other and focused on each other. And so that's a great advantage, in my opinion, that we already have.
We do. And that's one of the things we talk about on here before, is that with all the turmoil and stuff going on in the world, it's shipping is going to get kind of weird. Things are going to get kind of wonky. We're not going to be able to get goods and services that we've been used to of certain types. And, if we do go full bore into a crazy tariff thing and things stop coming from China, dude, we're going to need like industrialization here fast, like in a good, smart 21st century way. But there's going to be goods like hammers. I was looking that up the other day. I was like, what are, give me top. I was using Grok on, AI on X. And I asked it, what are the 7 things that the Eastern Shore of Virginia or the whole Delmarva Peninsula would need if these tariffs come to light? Like if it actually happens, how they have it pinned right now, the information that's out there now, what would that look like for the Eastern Shore? What would be 7 things that would be needed here that we could actually do here and relatively cheaply? And it's hammers, t-shirts, goods like that, where we could start up a t-shirt, the community. I'm not saying just us, I'm saying the community as a whole. The t-shirt factory in Exmoor like used to be there. We need white cotton t-shirts. We're not going to get those goods and services. So how do we capitalize on this?
That's a wonderful point. I mean, there's the big view, and is the next generation of American manufacturing. Is it something involving wallops, or is it t-shirts? So we have to figure that out. T-shirts seems like a step backwards. However, I appreciate the reality of the moment, and I don't know if all of our STEM educational programs. I'm not ready to abandon that for t-shirt manufacturing.
No, because you need both in parallel. You're going to need both. And so,
we can just have robots do the work, right? I mean,
but you can though. But but you know what? Like building hammers, something as simple as building a hammer. You can source the material, everything from pretty much from here or from the local area and from the region. And you just set up where you're making a cast of the hammerhead, and then you bring in lumber and you mill your own handles and stuff. There's things that we humans are still needed for, and that's it too, because a robot still cannot go in and mold a hammer, handmade stuff, and actually make it the way it lasts. Robots don't understand it. They don't take pride in that stuff. They don't look at this stuff and say, man, I want this to be pretty. They're just going to put whatever's programmed in there. Well, people are going to want to put pride in it and put their hands in there, because that's what we do around here. And that's going to be needed. And it's so simple. And there's all these 7 things that the I don't remember all of them now, but I was able to go on there and just pull that up. And I want to throw these ideas out to the shore, so somebody pick up the ball and start running with it. And I'm going to support them 100%. I'm going to buy their hammers, dude, because I'm tired of breaking stuff.
One of my favorite quotes that I've read in the last couple of weeks. And sometimes when you read a quote, you have to say, is this something that I find intellectually stimulating, or is it something that really fits me as a person? And so this is a little bit of both. Am I like reading something that makes me feel better about myself? And it when big changes happen, there's this time-honored tradition. Don't just stand there, do something.
yeah.
But when big changes happen these days, you should really think of it as, don't just do something. Stand there. Think of it in the opposite. Read what's going on and then respond to it, instead of making a knee-jerk reaction to it. So I'm in don't just do something, stand there mode. It helps out around the house. I don't really help with dinner that much. I just stand there, see if I can read the situation. And actually, I do sometimes help with dinner.
What's your favorite meal?
Every one of them. I've never met a meal I didn't like. I've never met a meal.
That's a good answer. I love that. That same thing.
My go-to one right now, and I don't tell many people this because they cringe, but I've always been
Chicken livers?
not yet.
Not yet.
It's I love scrapple,
Because
but it takes a while to cook.
It takes a while.
Yeah.
So I chop off a couple slices of scrapple and I put it in a microwave.
Huh.
And I liquefy this meat. And so my favorite breakfast right now is just liquid meat. Just scrapple and a couple boiled eggs.
It's what, 2 minutes on there?
2 minutes.
2 minutes.
To liquefy it. And it kind of gets a little firm on the edges.
Do you spread it on toast?
I haven't. That would be too much like.
You just eat it like
Potted meat.
oatmeal right now?
I do.
Like,
Oh man, I love potted meat.
you dress it up with anything,
No.
you know?
No,
Lucas,
Just straight.
have you had potted meat?
I ate
Okay.
it. I ate it virgin. It's completely virgin.
Wow. With like
Potted meat
straight from
is
a
a-
bowl
is
or
an
with a
Eastern short
spoon?
thing.
No, I have my 2 slices of scrapple from the microwave with my boiled eggs
Okay.
Mm.
All right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
and my coffee.
So my grandmother, do you remember my mom's mom, Lola?
Yes.
Yeah.
My wife remembers her very well.
Yes. So she passed away last year. She was 95. And she was from the tough as nails days. Like she grew up in the Great Depression.
Mm-hmm.
And the stories of what they went through but they had fun with it. They accepted and they innovated some of the things that we came up with because we had to survive.
That's right.
We had to do this to survive. And they were so innovative, but like scrapple.
Yeah.
The good meat went up to the cities and stuff, but they had the scraps of the
Everything
pig right
but
there.
the squeal.
And they're like, you know what? Let's do it. And I tell you what, if you
I had a scrapple sandwich the other weekend at Exmoor Diner. It's
man, I'm telling you, there's nothing better than like that. That's a delicacy to me now. Something that they use to survive. Like I'll have it once a year because I would have it more, but my wife does not like me cook it.
Scrapple?
No,
But you got to cook it outside.
You got to.
You can't stick
got
up
to.
the whole house. But you get it right, make a puppy pull a freight train. That in it is good stuff.
But like she taught me the proper way of cooking scrapple.
Now, I happen to be a processed meat expert. So do you make it thin? See, for instance, I get a little bit of crunch coating, and then I
like a little crunch. Yeah.
but I want the inside creamy like an oyster.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Mhm.
Yeah. So it's get the pan as hot as possible. Like you want it
Do you
hot.
put it in all?
No.
No oil.
No. Nope.
Do you put flour on it?
Really?
Because
No.
if you put flour on either side, if you get a thin piece, the flour will hold it together.
But flour was too expensive back then.
Oh, I'm not talking about back-
so that's what I'm
Ted-
saying. But
Ted
I'm
wasn't
telling you,
eating back then.
she taught me the way they cooked it back then.
You
they
just seared the heck out of it.
you make it because you still get that. You get that
Decent
that gooey
quarter inch,
center.
half inch.
Not a half inch. Half
No.
inch that's too thick.
That's too thick.
So about a quarter of an inch
Okay.
is kind of how I like it. But you get that pan hot, dude, and you put that on there, and you want it to be cold. You don't want it to start to get room temperature. You got to make sure it's still cold too.
Okay.
And you get it super hot, and you put it on there, and you just let it cook for a little bit, and then you take it and you flip it over, and you just let it cook for a little bit, and it gives you that uber crispy, almost
yeah.
like burnt kind of. That's why I blackened the pan a little bit too, so I have like some blackened spices or pepper or something in there too that they get in there. And I just cook that, and dude, that's one of the best things I ever made on a piece
What
of bread.
makes you an expert in what did you say?
And a processed meat.
In
Try
process.
Try me.
Try me.
Try me.
So potted meat.
Been there, done that.
So
hey,
What is it?
it matters not.
It matters not.
Hey, not only did I eat the Vienna sausage, I drank the juice.
yes.
All right. So, what are your top 3 rankings of processed meat currently?
Well, it's.
Are you putting spam on there?
No, I'm not
What?
a spam guy. I'm
Really?
not a spam guy. You know, and I don't ever talk about where I've go or where I've gone, but recently I went to Hawaii.
Oh, nice.
There's a lot of spam consumed in Hawaii. And you wouldn't know that.
That
you could-
surprises me.
In the grocery stores in Hawaii, they do like the Costco sized boxes of Vienna sausage.
Hmm.
It's amazing. I didn't get one.
So you know why, right?
I don't.
So think back to World War II,
Okay.
right? We had to go island hopping to get to Japan.
Mhm.
We had to strategically take over islands throughout the whole Pacific as we went along so we can start staging for something big. And the military, World War II, rationing and everything, of course, but they also too, their food was not gourmet like it is now for the MREs. The MREs and stuff now are awesome.
MREs, meals ready to eat.
Right. So it was the original MRE, potted meat, Vienna sausage, and Spam. And so wherever these sailors and Marines and Army went, the
processed meat follows.
They introduced these places to the processed meat. And so as you go the farther west until it turns east again, as you keep going out west and you go to these islands, especially like Kwajalein, Fiji, the Philippines, when you get off the aircraft and you go into a terminal, I'm talking now, you walk through the terminal and there are Spam vending machines as soon as you get there. They love Spam, and it's
they have like different
everywhere.
Flavors that.
No, dude, it's
really?
all but
OG Spam.
OG Spam, and that is what they get. And it's something like that is how it shaped those areas. Kind of like, have you ever heard of? There were these tribes along the same times that when aircraft landed in there, that these tribes thought that their god was arriving from the air and landing and bringing them goods, and they leave. And I think they're called like crate. What is it, Lucas? Do you know this? It's called like crate worship or something like that.
Really?
Because they had no idea what even
Indo-Pacific
an airplane was.
area.
Yes.
Yeah.
And these aircraft landed and they brought all these goods and stuff, and then they left. And they're like,
wow,
that must have been the gods that just flew in here.
Darn right.
And so, and we still have these today. Like there's some remote areas in the South Pacific and stuff where they still have these things that like it meant a lot to them. And so Spam is really revered there. Or is that the word for it? Like
exactly.
It's honored and revered. And yeah, look, it's cargo cults. That's it right there. So they actually have effigies that they
like
made.
A shrine that they built?
Because they want them to come back. And so that's why you have like the different things throughout the world where like the Inca lines and or the what are those lines called? No, not the ley lines, but the like some Aztec cultures. They yeah. So they have these effigies that are written to the space that you can only see from space because they worship these entities that came here at one time or whatever, or introduced them to things. So look, so they have these goggles because they're and radar, yeah, because they came in, they brought radar so they could communicate during the war, and they left. And these tribes are like, no, come back. We want you to come back. Yeah.
Dang.
So World War II had a major impact on a need, on something that happened.
On the spreading of processed meat.
That's right. So I hope that you actually learned something tonight about processed meat.
I appreciate that. I don't watch a lot of television, frankly, but I do watch videos on hot dogs.
Like how it's made, that sort of stuff.
I'm
I
down
love
with
how
all
it's
that.
made.
Awesome.
Oh yeah,
That's awesome.
In Rhode Island, of course, they're not called hot dogs; they're called hot wieners.
Hot wieners. Okay.
In Providence, we had hot wieners from the revered Hot Wiener Hut outside of New York City.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
In the shadow of the Meadowlands Stadium.
That's awesome.
Rutt's Hut, where they have the mustard chili relish. We had hot dogs there. South Carolina at the Beacon Restaurant in Spartanburg. I try to eat processed meat in every state.
That's awesome stuff.
That's what makes you an expert, and I would agree. I try to eat processed meat in every state. Let me write that down.
So that's one thing that you could do here. You could actually start that in our region, the Delmarva Peninsula, because it's going to be hard to get processed meat in here.
Well, I do way too much reading on the Delmarva Scrapple Trail Facebook page.
That's awesome.
Really? What?
And as you go north, you don't get that much scrapple selection in our grocery stores.
Right.
I'm thankful for you usually get Rappa.
Yeah.
Sometimes in the Exmoor food line you can get Kirby Holloway.
Okay.
Which has been what I've been nuking in the
That's your preferred nuking.
Well, as you get
brand.
north, I mean, you get into Delaware and southeastern Pennsylvania, you get a whole lot of, it's like boutique scrapple.
Oh.
Right. The Amish country.
Oh, it's amazing.
Yep.
You get this small batch scrapple. Some people like this, small batch
Yeah.
whiskey.
Yeah.
Yes.
I
yes.
like small batch scrapple.
So have you had salt and arrow scrapple?
Salt. It's 2 words.
Salt and arrow.
I have never had that.
So in
Where's
Machapungo, there
Oh.
is a family who has started their own ranch, and they have cattle.
That's a story.
They have
That is
cattle.
a
They
story.
have chicken. They have pigs. And last year they did their own scrapple, and it was the best scrapple I've ever had.
Wow.
I gotta try.
I'm telling you, dude, it's like really good
Salt
stuff.
and arrow.
Salt and arrow. They're in Machapungo. Their turkeys last year for Thanksgiving. We got turkey from them, and
Phenomenal.
it was awesome.
It
It was clean, and it was like just super clean, and not Mr. Clean, but super clean. But
Yeah.
but their scrapple, Salt and Arrow
Salt and
Ranch,
Arrow.
right here on the Eastern Shore, and so
Who owns it? Do you know?
it is look, let's meet the Salt and Arrow family.
Let's do it.
What when you say who owns it?
Oh, there we go.
So my wife knows them.
Okay.
Season knows them just because of ordering through them and the way they do it, and they're really hands on. And they recently they have cattle dogs, and one of them took off, and my wife and her friend and our children were at the dunes there near Smith Beach, Savage Neck Dunes, I think is that what it's
Oh,
called.
yeah.
What a wonderful
Mhm.
place.
Dude,
I
it's
love
awesome
that.
there. And
I love that place.
they were there hanging out, and this family who owns the Salt and Arrow Ranch, they were with one of their dogs trying to find this dog, and they met on the trail, and they were like, "What are you doing?" And they found out that their dog ran off, and so my wife and her friend and their children, all of our children, tried to find this dog. They found the dog at Air Hall. Air Hall is where it went from Machapungo to Air Hall. It just went on an adventure.
Dog's got some wheels.
Dude, went on an
Yeah.
adventure. But this was a couple days went by. And
Whoa.
so they were able to finally locate them. But yes, so processed meats right here, and they're doing cattle this year. They're actually going to offer whole and half and cattle. So
That's
yeah,
awesome.
so they this year. So I have chickens. We have chickens, and man, I probably shouldn't have said that. Somebody might come and try to take my eggs, but
Oh,
no. But so I have chickens, and this winter they were not laying, and so we were able to go down to Salt and Arrow, and those snowstorms.
Pork
Drove-
belly is a $13.25 a pound.
So
I bet that's good.
dude, it's their stuff is awesome. Their stuff it really is.
You can buy it online.
Yeah,
Mm.
yeah. And so they sell some of the things there at Quail Cove too at Mr.
Oh,
Carty's
nice.
place.
I'll check that out.
Yeah, yep.
So, I knew that for you being here, I wanted to talk a little bit about. Sorry, this is a bit of a transition, but say for example, you wanted to write a story about this, right? And you mentioned earlier that one of your jobs is to make people realize or make people learn through media.
Mhm.
So, I guess my question is dealing with like, what do you say to people that don't trust media sources, right? Because it seems like media is becoming so polar these days with the way that they deliver things, because that's what gets the clicks, right?
That's
so
right.
just share your opinion about that.
Media, and when you say media, you're essentially talking about
I'm talking about TV.
news organizations.
Oh, news organizations, yeah.
News organizations only work when you see the reporters or the editors in the grocery store.
Mm,
That's because so you see the person, you know the person in the community, they have a reputation, they live down the street, their kids play Little League, you see them in the grocery store, they were at the fundraiser. They say, Ted, I think he shoots us straight. He's a good member of this community. There's no reason for me not to trust him.
yeah.
And that's where media works. Once upon a time, and I can remember this, once upon a time, it was, and I'll ask you this question. Who did Walter Cronkite work for? You know Walter Cronkite?
Oh yeah.
Who did he work
ABC or NBC?
Neither one. When I was growing up,
60 Minutes.
He was the evening news anchor for the CBS Evening News.
That's right. That's right.
So essentially, you knew the name.
Yes.
Even if you didn't know who that person worked for.
Okay. Right.
That's when
Reputation.
That's when media works.
Mm-hmm.
And it, you see it all the time. You see it in schools. You say, I want to be in Mr. Carlson's class. He knows what's going on. It might be Broadwater Academy, but Mr. Carlson, his name has the reputation.
Huh.
So in news, I believe it to be the same way.
I would agree. Yeah.
And so, over a long period of time, people say, well, Ted's been there for a while. I didn't really agree with what he wrote about this, but I didn't agree with what he wrote about that. But
I think that's healthy, though.
Yeah. Well, people they want to see their opinions manifested in the reporting.
Yeah.
But there's somebody like David Stiles who says, I've known Ted for a while. I trust him. If he writes that, that's what if he has these people working for him, I've known them for a while, know their parents. I see them in the grocery store. I believe them. I don't think I think they're going to shoot us straight.
Mm-hmm.
That's the way media works.
Yeah.
And so that's the way media doesn't work. If you see somebody post something on social media, or you don't know the person, they're in a basement in New York City or something, and they're pumping out a bunch of whatever it is.
They're a post princess.
They're a post princess. Exactly. So what reason do I have to believe that person?
Well, and that's the problem, is people do believe, right? They don't test. And how do we go about, getting that analytical thinking in our public to be like, yeah, well, I really like Ted, but maybe he was thinking, I'm not sure what he was thinking, but I agree with him with this, and like, I just feel like we're missing that.
Well, and you hope that situation becomes, they're free to write a letter to the editor. They're free to say, Ted covered, and Ted's, I hate to refer to myself in the third person. They might say, well, I would say, I've made the biggest mistakes in the history of journalism on the Eastern Shore. I know I have. I've made profound mistakes. Credibility dictates that you correct your mistakes.
Mm-hmm.
And but I've made, I covered an Accomack County budget meeting 20 years ago. And the Accomack County Taxpayers Association had a 2,000 signature petition, and not a small petition, big petition. And they presented it to the Board of Supervisors. I just forgot to mention it. Opening day was coming up. I was going to the Phillies game. I was ready to get out. I wrote the story.
Yeah, we are all human,
I forgot it. And they were incredulous, and they should have been. So they wrote a letter and said, Ted's obviously biased because he wants the schools to get, he wants the schools to get all this money. We had a 2,000 signature petition, and he never put it in the paper. That was a big mistake that I made. I just messed up.
Yeah, and I think like one of the big steps is like being able to own that mistake, right? Like,
yeah, well, you have to for your own integrity.
Yeah, but also, sorry.
No, please.
And also just like having that thick skin, right? To be like, Yeah,
we're the only business that we admit our mistakes. We publish our mistakes. If somebody gives you the wrong dinner at Wendy's, they don't, not that ever happens, but they don't put it on the sign, we gave the wrong dinner. But the newspapers do that. Schools don't do that. But newspapers say, we were in error, we correct our errors. That's how you build community trust and integrity.
Well, that was part of your opinion piece too that really grabbed me as well, is that we've almost forgotten how to, we've become very good at finding a mistake, but we have lost the art of how to also come to the table with a solution as well.
Mm.
Well, and I didn't put this in there. We're horrible arguers.
Yes. Yes.
And I can prove it because almost everybody who argues these days never convinces anybody of their opinion.
Right.
But everybody thinks they're a great arguer.
Right.
But to be a good debater means that you have a stance, and through my own facts and
Perspective.
that I convince you.
Yeah.
So we're a society these days that just doesn't argue well. The whole classic debate that's not on social media. We don't, we don't listen, and it's both sides. I mean, or every side.
Because if you truly care, you want the truth. I want the truth and you want the truth, and we want to both understand, and not even the truth, just we want to have an understanding as to
like the full story, the full situation. Is that what you're trying to get
exactly at? Like we can sit here and we can have a discussion about this table, and you could tell me that this is the most beautiful table in the world and that it has a quality about it, and that you see value in that. I don't see any value in this table. Actually, I see a lot of value in this table because this really brings a room together right now. And I'm just using this as an example. I don't want you to get upset with me because I really
love
this table.
Yeah.
We're keeping this table and this carpet now for wherever we go, we're taking this with us.
That's the only table we have.
Yes, yeah, I love it. But
Simplifies things.
But I'm going to want to know why you think this has value, and you're going to want to know why that I think that it does not have value, because you really want to understand me and I want to understand you. And so we at least have a mutual understanding, and we both walk away from that.
Well,
but we may learn something in the process. You're going to tell me something that I didn't see originally with this table, or I may have a flaw. Like I actually looked at it from this perspective, from upside down, and I saw the table had cracks. And I'm like, no, man, because I care about you, I don't want you to take this table. And that's how we need to come at with any argument, right?
I tell young people who are kind of who say I understand somebody's opinion, but I don't like their opinion, so I don't want anything they have to do.
And then they're just shut off. Yeah.
I tell young people, I said, is that a reason to do that? Is the fact that if the description you just gave of the table. So I've known David Stiles since the late 80s, the mid to late 80s. I know him to be a great guy. Why am I gonna shut him off
Based on one thing.
based on one thing?
Yeah.
And that's
We're family. That's what families do, right?
And so that's exactly right. And
We don't have to always agree with each other. We don't have to.
Not at all. It would be unhealthy. It would be odd.
Because nothing
It would
would
be
ever
strange.
happen. And yeah.
But if I know, and here again, I always say that if you and I disagreed on things, but you asked Ted and David their 10 priorities for their lives and for their Eastern Shore, I almost guarantee that it'd be 10 out of 10.
Right.
Even if we disagreed on
How to get there.
national level politics.
Yeah.
Or something like that,
Right.
I guarantee it that we would agree.
Yeah.
And so the question doesn't really become the disagreement. The question becomes, do I sever ties with somebody because of a disagreement? And this is a trite old saying, but it's one of those, we agree to disagree.
Yeah.
That's right. That's right.
And, which is a very powerful concept these days.
Yes.
To say, I'm very fond of David. He's a good family man. Does great in his community. He's coach, leader of young people. Why am I going to say all that? Why am I going to discard all that if we don't agree on a table.
That's right.
And that's the bottom line.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
So
how do we, especially using this show, but I mean, what's probably the first thing that needs to happen in your eyes?
I don't think that well, I would say that. I think it all comes down to the grocery store. It all comes down to I'd see somebody coaching after school. I think that it all comes down to the relationship, not the issue. And if I built, if you and I are sharing, especially here on the Eastern Shore, if we're sharing this community, and we would agree on everything. We want our kids to have a great education. We want our community safe. We want our kids to grow up and prosper. We want a good processed meat product.
Yeah.
Whatever it might be. If we can agree on all that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's a good day, man. That's a great day. You know that?
I do.
So I want to, before I forget this too, I want to say something about this. So this has been a lot of fun, dude.
Yeah, it has been. And it needs to be said, and I don't know how many times this needs to be said, just like I told your daughter, that I will always think of you as the last public school football player on the Eastern Shore to catch a touchdown pass, to score a touchdown in a state championship football game. There's only been a couple guys who have scored from the Eastern Shore who have scored a touchdown in a state championship football game, and I'm honored that I call one of them a friend. The other one's a nice guy too. By the way, and if you gave me time, I'd call his name. He went to Nancock, but I almost had his name. Nice guy. So you're in a rare cadre there.
So that's what, man. That's awesome, dude. Yeah, that's a feather in my cap right there.
You remember the final score to that game?
It was like 36-6.
That's exactly what it was.
Yeah.
Snowed that week.
Yeah. Oh, it was horrible. It was horrible, dude. But when I was in the Air Force, so I played, surprise, surprise, I played every sport. I was always staying busy constantly, especially when I first got in, and when I went to Korea, which, activities after working your butt off for 14 hours is you're going to go out and then beat each other up in a sport. Like we played football, we played baseball, we played basketball, but we played it as military men and women, and we used to beat the snot out of each other, like we did here and growing up playing with everybody and just having a blast. So in Korea, trying to drum up interest for our football team, right? And this was full contact flag football. So we had flags,
Nice.
They were just ornaments. They were never used because you got down one way or the other. Like we used to beat the mess out of each other, but I had a blast. And, and then, we hung out afterwards and had even more of a blast afterwards. But so what I did for our squadron, so the 5th Reconnaissance Squadron, the Black Cats, there is already a tight-knit community because in Korea, at the base itself, it was a training base, but we still did real-world flights. Like we were constantly taking surveillance, reconnaissance, and intelligence from around the world. So we were doing a real-world thing, and they were just playing, so to speak. They were still working their butts off, but they were training. So we didn't have to participate in any of the training exercises. And we had little special badges that as they're out there playing war, like we're walking by, like with our badges going, I don't have to play war. I'm going to go to work and have fun. They're out there in the cold and the miserable situation. And it was just horrible. But so we had a tight knit community of the Black Cats. And so I started a paper there and
Awesome.
It was it was a paper, it was email. Because I had access to everybody's email address just in the squadron. So I can hit, send all, and I would do a article about our flag football team.
Cool.
And each game and stats and broke it down and just had a blast with it, man. And that really drummed up some interest. And like we had our commander would come out to games and, from top to bottom, like we were probably, I would say, 100 people strong. Let's just say that. Let's just say about 100 people strong for this squadron. So we were really close, but it was cool because I was able to take something that I grew up reading in his articles and stuff in the newspaper. And I used to love that, man, because the way he would break a game down and Greg Merritt would break a game down and you know, and it was local here and I did the same thing. So dude, like seriously, like, man, like your writing like truly had inspired me. And I loved your articles. I mean, always, and I would always read it. I'd get a hold of it and somehow read the Eastern Shore News and whatever it was, wherever I go around the world. So yeah,
I'm
man.
flattered. That's a wonderful thing to hear.
Yeah.
You know, all of us grew up of a certain age, and you're that age too. All of us learned how to write, read, and sports.
Right.
That's cool.
That all of us. My parents, I was very fortunate that they got a daily paper delivered wherever you lived. And you get up and check the box scores. We all in second, third, or fourth grade.
Oh, yeah.
We were reading with
Pre-Sports Center.
Exactly.
You know? Yeah.
We were reading the accounts of the Sunday football games and the Monday paper. And you learned how to, we kind of knew how to read, but you learned how these things are supposed to sound.
Right.
And you learned leads on sports stories, and you did it too. It's a funny thing. I fear that kids don't get a good, kids who are interested in athletics and sports, college sports, professional sports. They're not exposed to that anywhere. They don't know how to write one that from the account. Sometimes the darn accounts, if you read the New York Times, the darn accounts are better than the games. You don't have to watch the game. Just read the New York Times account of the Masters or something like that. It's wonderful.
So do you have Max Preps at all? Do you follow Max Preps?
A little bit.
So what do you think of the AI?
We get a good chuckle out of it. It's
Is it bad?
yeah. Well, if you know the sport, it's a little bit different. Team A defeated Team B 7-4 based on the strengths of David Stiles' 4 walks. I mean, it has nothing to do with the outcome.
Yeah, because the sports, like they used to they would break it down and you would feel like, the coach came in and brought this pitcher in this type of situation and this is what came of that. So they were telling the story while also giving you stats at the same time.
That's cool.
And so there was that feeling into it, that human element that AI just cannot give.
Yeah.
Period. And never will be able to give that.
There was newspapers were different then. There was a luxury that you could have a staff writer, and then you had to find the right person. That's one thing to have the position. Right. It's another thing to have the right person who would stand there and so and so had 4 walks, but in a 7-6 game, the lead paragraph should have the guy who drove in the run in the 7th inning. Right. I mean,
yeah, I have I kept from all through high school. And even before that, I have articles from all the teams and stuff and kept my mom. She clipped all those out and she put them in a thing. So like full articles from all those years and stuff that we were coming up. So, I mean, it played a massive role into me even wanting to, I was all over the place and sports kind of helped me focus on something because I couldn't focus anywhere else.
I should have brought it with us. And I've done speaking engagements in which I did bring it. I have a framed letter from Bill Bynum, who was at Broadwater. And Mr. Bynum wrote this to me at the end of 1994, which is hard to believe. It's been more than 30 years ago. And Broadwater had just had an undefeated football season and had made the state playoffs. And Mr. Bynum wrote me a note. I was in college at the time. I was coming home and writing this stuff. And he said in this that the status we give these athletes, these student athletes, as he would always say, is paramount in their lives. I can almost quote the letter. It gives them a place in their community. And what better role of a paper is to give a young person or anybody, a place in their community, and it gives them some standing in their school, and they're very proud of that. And like I said, I wish I had brought it, but it's hanging on my wall in the newsroom there, and I think of that all the time. So yeah, the outcome of the game is important, and how you tell the story is important. But it always, putting somebody's name in the paper is a profound act, especially when it's in there for a good reason.
Right. That's right.
And especially a kid.
Yes.
And we can never forget that. That's a very important part of what we do.
Yeah, it is. And that's as we move forward into the future here on the Eastern Shore, like that's why we have got to keep that going. And that's some of the things that we have got to bring back to and really understand that. And people need to understand that it's
Well, I think what you started with, seeing every kids in the grocery store, right? You got a girlfriend, you got a boyfriend, right? Like making them feel purpose and belong, right? So it's kind of interesting how
it gives them a piece in the community.
Circle.
And what is more important than that? You have a role in this community.
Yeah.
And you do. And really, if you see somebody out in the grocery store, it's like, that's huge, because they're like, wow. And then they start to, subconsciously, they're going along their day and they're like, wow, like people are looking at me. Maybe I should be a better role model. And I tell my children that all the time. I'm like, if you're out there in the community and you're say, for example, you're playing sports, but everything else you do in life is like wonky and like, man, he's an awesome athlete, but I don't want my child to see their actions outside over here. And so when you're away from the field and you see them out in the community and you talk to them and you're, reassuring them and guiding them and helping them with the path that truly, like, I see it in them. I was there. I was that punk little kid growing up that, it went a long way when I saw a teacher that would see me out in the community and want to talk to me and interact with me and try to like give me some advice.
Yeah.
Give me some knowledge.
It
like
still does.
We have to share that. We truly have to share our knowledge with them. We can't just hold it and bottle it up. And because, that's one of the older community now, they have to remember that like the younger kids, they want to hear your stories. They want to, because they're curious. We're all curious. It's human nature to be curious, and put good things in them to be curious about, And
in the process, you're doing one of two things. You're building people up or you're tearing people down.
Right.
So build them up.
That's right. That's right. That's right. Man, thank you so much.
Oh, this was a pleasure.
This is cool stuff.
It was an honor to be here, and I'm very flattered to have been asked. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I appreciate you. So.
Well, thank you.
Yep.
Thank you. And here's it. I was thinking of names.
Oh yeah, that's what we were like. Whoa, we just had like a telepath. So I guess we need to come up with a name.
It's the Bellhaven Basement Podcast.
Bellhaven Basement Podcast,
or the Bellhaven Brick Room.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that.
Thank you all.
Yes, sir.
Of course, thank you.
And if there's moving forward guests that you think that we need to have, people we need to have on here to share their stories that you're like, man, you've got to have them on there.
I'll let you know.
Please, because we want to hear these stories because we're losing people, and it's like, man, I wish we talked to them. I wish I saw them again or something. And yeah,
we'll do it.
Yeah, awesome.
Thank you.